Night watch, a pirate's vigil. The midnight bell has long since rung, its brass echo fading into the vast darkness that surrounds the ship. You stand at the bow, one hand resting on the rail worn smooth by countless hands before yours, the other absently checking the cutlass at your hip. The crew sleeps below, their snores and mumbles drifting up through the hatches like the murmurs of restless ghosts. But you are awake. You are always awake on nights like this. The sea stretches out before you, black as spilled ink, broken only by the phosphorescent trails of creatures moving beneath the surface. Each glowing streak makes your heart quicken for just a moment before you recognize it for what it is. Not a ship's lantern, not a reef appearing where the charts promised deep water, just life going about its business in the depths. You've learned to read these waters the way other men read books, though the stories the ocean tells are written in a language older than any scripture. Your watch began at the changing of the guard, when old Jack Hobson clapped you on the shoulder and said, "She's yours till dawn, lad. Keep her steady." Then he descended below, leaving you alone with the wind and the waves and the creaking of the rigging. The ship, the Serpent's Whisperer Asterisk, though you've heard the crew call her other names when they think the captain can't hear, rocks gently beneath your feet. You know her rhythms now, after 6 months aboard. You know when her movement means calm seas, and when it means you should wake the crew and secure everything that isn't already lashed down. Tonight, she rides easy. The wind is gentle, barely enough to keep the sails full, and the stars overhead are so numerous and bright that you can almost read by their light. Almost. You've tried, on other watches, pulling out the small book of poems you keep tucked inside your shirt. But the light is never quite enough, and besides, you've found that reading on watch is a good way to miss the things that matter. The change in the wind, the distant sail, the shadow that might be a rock or might be something else entirely. You walk the length of the deck, your boots making soft sounds on the planking. Every few steps, you stop and listen. This is what they don't tell you about being a pirate when you're young and foolish and thinking only of treasure and adventure. They don't tell you about the waiting, the watching. The long, lonely hours when you're the only thing standing between your sleeping crewmates and whatever the darkness might bring. The ship carries 32 souls, not counting yourself. You know them all now, at least by face if not by name. There's Captain Merrick, who sleeps in his cabin with his door locked and his pistols loaded. There's Sarah, the only woman aboard, who can splice rope faster than any man you've ever seen, and who has a tattoo of a mermaid on her forearm that seems to move when she works. There's young Thomas, barely 14, who cries sometimes in his sleep, and who you've taken to checking on when you pass the crew quarters. They trust you to keep them safe. It's a strange thing, trust. 6 months ago, you were nothing to them. Just another desperate soul looking for a berth, willing to sign the articles and take your chances with the rope and the revenue men. Now you're part of the family, such as it is. Pirates don't have families in the traditional sense, but they have something else. A bond forged of shared danger and shared fortune, of knowing that any day might be your last and choosing to face it together anyway. You pause at the mainmast, running your hand along the wood. Somewhere up in the rigging, you hear a soft sound, probably just the wind and the ropes, but you peer upward anyway. The masts rise like skeletal fingers pointing at the stars, the sails hanging pale and ghostly in the darkness. Nothing moves up there that shouldn't. You continue your patrol. The stern deck is where you can see the wake, a churning trail of white foam that marks your passage through the dark water. You stand there for a while, watching it spread and fade, thinking about the places you've been and the places you're going. The charts say there's an island 3 days' sail to the west, uninhabited but rumored to have a freshwater spring. Captain Merrick wants to make for it, to refill the water barrels and maybe hunt for fresh meat. After that, who knows? There's talk of a Spanish treasure galleon, fat and slow, making its way up from the colonies. There's always talk of treasure galleons. You've learned not to count on such things. The sea gives and the sea takes away, and you've seen more empty horizons than full merchant ships. But still, you dream sometimes. What would you do with a share of real treasure? Not the small prizes you've taken so far, a merchant vessel here, a fishing boat there, enough to keep the crew fed and the ship maintained, but real treasure. Gold and jewels and all the things that men kill for. You'd probably just end up back at sea. It's what you know now. The land holds nothing for you anymore. A sound from below makes you turn, hand going to your cutlass, but it's just Davies coming up from the crew quarters. He waves at you, then makes his way to the rail, where he proceeds to relieve himself over the side. You turn away, giving him his privacy, and scan the horizon again. Still nothing, just darkness and stars and the endless rolling sea. "Quiet night," Davies says, coming up beside you. He's not supposed to be awake, but you don't say anything. He's older than you, maybe 40, with a face like old leather and hands that are missing 2 fingers from his left hand. He lost them to frostbite. He told you once, on a voyage north where they'd chased a Dutch trader into waters so cold that the rigging froze solid. "Quiet," you agree. "They're the ones that worry me," he says. "The quiet nights. It's when nothing happens that you know something's about to." You smile at that. Davies has a saying for everything, and most of them contradict each other. But there's wisdom in the contradictions you've learned. The sea is a place of paradox, dangerous and beautiful, deadly and life-giving. It can carry you to fortune or drag you down to death, sometimes in the space of a single hour. "Get some sleep," you tell him. "I've got the watch." He nods and pats you on the shoulder, then heads back below. You're alone again, the way you prefer it. Not that you mind the company, but there's something about being alone on watch that clarifies your thoughts. Up here, with just the stars and the sea, you can think about things. About the man you used to be before you took to pirating. About the family you left behind, if they still think about you. About the life you might have had if you'd made different choices. But then, what use are such thoughts? You are what you are now, a pirate, an outlaw, a man with a price on his head in 3 different ports. There's no going back from that, even if you wanted to. The wind picks up slightly, and you feel the ship respond, heeling just a bit to starboard. You make a note to mention it to the captain in the morning. Not enough to worry about, but enough to keep in mind. Everything matters when you're at sea. Every change in the wind, every unusual sound, every shadow on the horizon. Miss the wrong detail and you might find yourself at the bottom of the ocean, or hanging from a yardarm in some colonial port, or gutted by a privateer's blade. You've seen all of those fates befall other men. You've stood on the deck while the crew sewed up the bodies of your fallen comrades in their hammocks, weighted them with shot, and slid them into the sea. You've watched ships burn. You've heard men scream. These are the things they don't tell you about when you're young and dreaming of piracy. They tell you about the treasure and the freedom and the adventure, but they don't tell you about the cost. And yet, despite it all, you wouldn't choose differently. There's something about this life that calls to you, something wild and free that you could never find on land. Out here, you're answerable to no one but the captain and the crew and the sea itself. Out here, every day is a gamble and every sunrise is a gift. It's a hard life, a dangerous life, but it's yours. The moon begins to rise, a thin crescent low on the horizon. By its light, you can see farther now, and you scan the distance carefully. Still nothing, just empty ocean in all directions. You should feel relieved, but Davy's words echo in your mind. The quiet nights are the ones that worry him. Maybe he's right to worry. You complete another circuit of the deck, checking everything. The ropes are secure. The cannons are lashed down. The cargo, what little there is of it, is properly stowed below. Everything is as it should be. You return to the bow and settle in to wait for dawn. The hours pass slowly. You mark time by the stars, watching them wheel across the sky in their eternal dance. You know some of their names now. Sarah taught you, pointing them out on previous watches. There's Polaris, the North Star, steady and unchanging. There's Orion, the hunter, with his belt of 3 bright stars. There's the Southern Cross, which you can just barely see from this latitude, promising warmer waters and stranger lands. You think about Sarah sometimes, though you know better than to let those thoughts go too far. She's made it clear that she's not interested in romance, and besides, shipboard relationships are complicated at best and disastrous at worst. But still, there's something about her. The way she moves, the way she laughs, the way she seems completely at home on the deck of a ship, as if she was born to this life. Maybe she was, maybe you all were. Maybe the sea calls to certain souls and won't let them go until they answer. You've heard sailors talk about it, that feeling of being pulled toward the water, of never quite feeling right on land. You feel it too. Even when you're ashore, taking on supplies or laying low in some pirate haven, part of you is always thinking about the moment you'll set sail again. A splash off the port side makes you jump, but it's just a dolphin arcing through the water. You watch it for a moment, admiring the way it moves, so effortlessly graceful. Then it's gone, vanished back into the depths, and you're alone again with your thoughts. You think about the raid you took part in 2 weeks ago. A small merchant vessel, barely armed, carrying cloth and spices from the Far East. It should have been easy, and it was, but there was a moment when you locked eyes with one of the merchants, an older man with gray hair and kind eyes, and you saw the fear there. The absolute terror. He thought you were going to kill him. Maybe you would have if he'd resisted. Maybe not. You'd like to think you're not that kind of pirate, that you only take what you need and leave the rest, but in the heat of the moment, who can say what they'd do? In the end, you let him live. They all lived. Captain Merrick isn't the murdering type unless he has to be. Dead men don't sail ships, he likes to say, and we might need to rob them again someday. It's practical in a cold sort of way, but you're grateful for it. You've spilled blood, yes, any pirate has, but you haven't killed anyone yet. Not directly, not that you know of. You wonder how long that will last. The night deepens. The moon climbs higher, casting its pale light across the water. You can see the waves more clearly now, rolling in from the east, gentle and rhythmic. The ship rides them smoothly, rising and falling, rising and falling. It's almost hypnotic. You have to shake yourself to stay alert. This is the danger of the long watch, not the sudden crisis, the attacking ship, or the unexpected storm. Those things wake you up, get your blood pumping, sharpen your senses. No, the danger is the slow erosion of alertness, the way your mind starts to wander as the hours drag on. You've heard stories of watchmen who fell asleep at their posts and woke to find their ships captured or run aground. You're determined not to become one of those stories, so you keep moving. You walk the deck, fore and aft, port and starboard. You check the rigging, though there's nothing to check. You examine the horizon, though there's nothing to see. You count the stars, name the constellations, recite poems in your head. Anything to stay sharp, anything to stay ready. Somewhere in the crew quarters, someone coughs. You hear it clearly in the stillness. Then silence again. You imagine them all down there, packed into their hammocks, swaying with the motion of the ship. Do they dream? And if so, what do pirates dream about? Treasure, probably. Freedom, the next prize, or maybe they dream of simpler things. Home, family, the lives they left behind. You dream sometimes of your mother. She's been dead for 5 years now, but in your dreams she's alive and young and smiling at you the way she used to when you were a child. In your dreams, you're not a pirate. You're still the boy she wanted you to be, working an honest trade, maybe married by now, maybe with children of your own. In your dreams, she's proud of you. You wake from those dreams feeling hollow. But you don't have time for such thoughts now. You're on watch. You have a duty. So you push the memories away and focus on the present, on the here and now, on the ship and the sea and the darkness that surrounds you. A sound from below catches your attention. Footsteps. Someone's awake and moving around. You tense, hand on your cutlass, until you see Captain Merrick emerge from his cabin. He's fully dressed, which means he probably never went to sleep in the first place. He joins you at the rail. "All quiet?" he asks. "Yes, sir. Not a thing to report." He nods, staring out at the water. Captain Merrick is a hard man to read. He's maybe 50, though he could be younger. The sea ages a man. He has a scar that runs from his left eye down to his jaw, a souvenir from some long-ago fight, and his hands are calloused and strong. He's fair, as captains go. He doesn't flog his men for small infractions, and he shares the treasure evenly according to the articles. But there's something cold in his eyes, something that suggests he's seen things you can't even imagine. "Good night for thinking," he says after a while. "Yes, sir. You ever wonder about it, what we're doing out here?" The question surprises you. Captain Merrick isn't the philosophical type. "Sometimes," you admit. "I did when I was your age. Wondered if there was more to life than chasing prizes and running from the law. Wondered if I should have stayed on land, found some honest work, settled down." He pauses, then smiles, though there's no humor in it. "Then I realized something. There's no such thing as honest work. The merchants we rob, they made their fortunes on the backs of slaves and conquered peoples. The navies that chase us, they serve kings and queens who live in palaces while their subjects starve. At least we're honest about what we are. We're thieves, sure, but we don't pretend to be anything else." You don't know what to say to that, so you say nothing. The captain doesn't seem to expect a response anyway. He's just talking, working through his own thoughts. "Keep a sharp watch," he says finally. "I've got a feeling about tomorrow." "What kind of feeling, sir?" "The kind that means we should be ready for anything." He claps you on the shoulder, then heads back to his cabin, leaving you alone again. His words hang in the air. A feeling. You've learned to trust the captain's feelings. He's been sailing these waters for 30 years, and he's still alive, which is more than most pirates can say. If he thinks something's coming, then something probably is. You scan the horizon with renewed intensity, looking for any sign of what that something might be. But there's nothing. Just the same empty darkness, the same stars, the same gentle waves. If danger is coming, it's not here yet. The night wears on. Your legs ache from standing, and your eyes burn from staring into the darkness, but you don't let up. This is your job. This is what you signed on for. Besides, dawn can't be too far off now. You can feel it in the air, that subtle change that comes before the sun rises. The darkness seems less absolute. The stars seem to dim. Soon the eastern sky will begin to lighten, and then your watch will be over. You find yourself thinking about what comes next. If the captain's right, if something is coming, then tomorrow might be interesting. A fight, a chase, or maybe just a storm? Any of those would break the monotony of the past few weeks, but any of them could also get you killed. That's the gamble you take every day. A bird cries out somewhere in the darkness. You can't see it, but you know it's there, probably following the ship in hopes of catching fish stirred up by the wake. You've seen them during the day, graceful creatures that seem to float on the wind without effort. Sometimes you envy them. They're free in a way that even pirates aren't. They owe allegiance to nothing and no one. They just fly. But then, they also live on scraps and have to fight for every meal. Maybe freedom isn't as simple as it looks. You're getting philosophical. That's what happens on the long watches when you've been alone with your thoughts for too many hours. Your mind starts to wander into territories it normally doesn't explore. Questions about meaning and purpose and what it all adds up to in the end. Usually you can push those thoughts away, but tonight they're persistent. What are you doing out here? Really? Captain Merrick can rationalize it however he wants, but at the end of the day, you're a thief. You take things that don't belong to you, and if people get hurt in the process, well, that's just the price of doing business. Is that really any better than the merchants and the navies and all the other people you're supposedly standing against? You don't know. You honestly don't know. But you know you're not going back. Whatever else this life is, it's yours. You chose it, or it chose you, and now you're stuck with it. There's a kind of freedom in that, in accepting what you are and not trying to be anything else. You're a pirate. You stand watch while the crew sleeps. You keep them safe, and in return, they accept you as one of their own. It's a simple equation, and maybe that's enough. The eastern sky is definitely lightening now. You can see the line where the sea meets the sky, a faint distinction between two shades of darkness. Dawn is coming. Your watch is almost over. You make one final circuit of the deck, checking everything one last time. All is well. The ship is sound. The crew is safe. You've done your job. In a few minutes, Jacobson will come up to relieve you, and you can go below and sleep for a few hours before the day's work begins. But for now, in these last moments of your watch, you stand at the bow and watch the sunrise begin. The first rays of light break over the horizon, turning the sky from black to deep blue to purple to orange. The stars fade one by one, retreating before the advancing day. The sea, which was so dark and mysterious just minutes ago, begins to reveal its true color, a deep blue-green that stretches away in all directions. It's beautiful. That's something else they don't tell you about being a pirate. For all the danger and hardship and moral ambiguity, there are moments like this. Moments when you're standing at the edge of the world, watching the sun rise over an empty ocean, and you feel more alive than you've ever felt in your life. You hear footsteps behind you. Jacobson, right on time. "Morning," he says, his voice rough with sleep. Anything to report? No, sir. Quiet night. Captain was up for a while, said he had a feeling about today. Jacobson nods seriously. Best stay alert then. You get some rest. I'll keep an eye on things. You nod and head toward the crew quarters, but before you descend, you take one last look at the sunrise. The sun is fully visible now, a burning disk of gold lifting itself out of the sea. The day has begun, and with it, whatever the captain's feeling was warning about. But that's a problem for later. For now, you're off watch. You've earned your rest. As you climb into your hammock, you can hear the ship coming to life around you. Voices calling out, feet moving on the deck above, the sounds of morning. The crew is waking, your vigil is over. You close your eyes and let sleep take you, knowing that when you wake, you'll do it all again. The watching, the waiting, the long, lonely hours in the darkness while others sleep. It's your role, your place in the great machine that is a pirate ship. And despite everything, despite all the doubts and questions and moral qualms, you wouldn't trade it for anything. The sea is your home now, the crew is your family, and the night watch is your sacred duty. You are a pirate, and this is your life. Story 2, Between Voyages, Life Aboard a Pirate Ship. The anchor drops with a heavy splash and a rattle of chain that echoes across the hidden cove. You feel the ship shudder beneath your feet as she settles into place, finally at rest after 3 weeks of hard sailing. Around you, the crew erupts into cheers and laughter, the tension of the voyage melting away like morning fog. You've made it to safe haven, one of the few places in these waters where pirates can drop anchor without fear of the naval patrols or bounty hunters. Captain Merrick stands at the helm, watching as the men secure the anchor line. Listen up, he bellows, and the crew falls silent. We'll be here for 2 weeks, maybe 3. The ship needs repairs and we all need rest. But don't mistake rest for laziness. There's work to be done, and every man will pull his weight. Understood? A chorus of "Aye, Captain" rings out across the deck. Good. First watch starts at sundown. Dismissed. The crew disperses, some heading below to collect their gear, others already planning their shore leave. You stand at the rail, looking out at the cove. It's a beautiful spot, surrounded by cliffs covered in thick vegetation that makes it nearly invisible from the open sea. A small settlement clings to the shore, ramshackle buildings made of driftwood and salvaged ship timber, with a few larger structures that serve as taverns and supply houses. This is where pirates come to rest, refit, and resupply. This is neutral ground, where the usual rivalries and feuds are set aside in favor of mutual survival. You've been here twice before, but the place still fascinates you. It's like a small town, but one where every resident is an outlaw, where every conversation might be punctuated by a knife fight, where fortunes change hands in card games and drinking contests. It's dangerous and exciting and exactly the kind of place your mother would have warned you about if she'd known such places existed. First time you've seen her at anchor in daylight, isn't it? Sarah appears beside you, leaning against the rail. She's right. Your previous visits here were at night, arriving under cover of darkness and leaving before dawn. She looks different, you say. In the clear light of day, you can see every detail of the Serpent's whisper. The worn planking, the patched sails, the barnacles growing below the waterline. She's not a pretty ship, not anymore, but she's sturdy and she's fast and she's kept you alive this long. She needs work, Sarah says. Hull needs scraping. Mainmast has a crack that needs reinforcing. Not to mention the rigging. Half the ropes are frayed to nothing. She sighs. It's going to be a busy 2 weeks. You nod. This is what happens between voyages. The work doesn't stop just because you're not sailing. If anything, it intensifies. A ship is a living thing, constantly demanding attention and care. Neglect her, and she'll kill you when you most need her. The longboat is lowered, and Captain Merrick climbs down with Davies and 2 other senior crew members. They're heading ashore to negotiate with the settlement suppliers to arrange for the materials and labor you'll need. You watch them row toward the beach, then turn your attention back to the ship. Already, the work has begun. Thomas and another young sailor are hauling buckets of water from the sea, ready to start scrubbing the deck. Old Jacobson is inspecting the anchor chain, link by link, looking for signs of weakness. A group of men are gathering the sails, preparing to take them down for repairs. Everyone has a job, everyone contributes. What do you want to do first? Sarah asks. Hull or rigging? You think about it. The hull work will require going over the side on ropes, scraping away the barnacles and seaweed that slow the ship down. It's hot, exhausting work, and you'll end up soaked and covered in slime. The rigging work is done up high, replacing worn ropes and checking every knot and splice. It's dangerous work, especially if you're not comfortable with heights, but at least you stay relatively dry. Hull, you say. No point in putting off the worst job. Sarah grins. Thought you'd say that. Come on, I'll show you how it's done properly. The next 3 hours are brutal. You're lowered over the side on a rope seat, armed with a scraper and a bucket. The sun beats down on you, and the salt water stings every small cut and scrape on your hands. Barnacles are sharp little bastards, and they cling to the hull with incredible tenacity. You scrape and scrape, your arms burning with effort, while Sarah works beside you, moving with practiced efficiency. See this? She calls over, pointing to a section of hull. Wood's starting to rot here. We'll need to replace these planks. You look closer and see what she means. The wood is soft, almost spongy. Press too hard and your finger might go right through. It's exactly the kind of thing that could sink a ship if left unattended. How do you fix it? You ask. We'll need to get some good timber from shore. Cut it to size, seal it with tar, nail it in place. It's not hard, just time-consuming. The trick is catching these things before they become real problems. You continue working, falling into a rhythm. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Drop the detritus into the bucket. Move down a bit. Repeat. Your mind wanders as your body works. You think about the last voyage, about the prizes you took and the close calls you had. There was that moment when a Spanish patrol ship appeared on the horizon, and you'd had to run for 6 hours straight, every sail straining, the crew working frantically to squeeze out every bit of speed. You'd escaped, but barely. And then there was the merchant ship you'd boarded. The captain had surrendered immediately, which was smart of him, but one of his crew had tried to fight. He'd pulled a pistol and fired wildly, nearly hitting Thomas. You'd tackled him, disarmed him, and held him down while the others secured the ship. Later, you'd found out he was the captain's son trying to defend his father's vessel. He couldn't have been more than 16. You wonder sometimes what happened to people like that. Do they go home and tell stories about the pirates who robbed them? Do they have nightmares about men like you, appearing out of the darkness with cutlasses and pistols? Probably. You try not to think about it too much. Break! Sarah calls out. You're hauled back up onto the deck, dripping wet and exhausted. Someone passes you a cup of water and you drink it gratefully. Around you, the work continues. The deck is being scrubbed clean, the sails are being laid out for inspection, and several crew members are up in the rigging, checking every rope and pulley. Thomas approaches you, looking worried. "The captain wants to see you," he says, "in his cabin." You exchange glances with Sarah, who shrugs. Captain Merrick doesn't usually summon individual crew members unless there's a problem. You head below, trying to figure out what you might have done wrong. The captain's cabin is small but well appointed, with a large table covered in charts and a hammock strung up in one corner. Merrick is sitting at the table, studying a ledger. He looks up when you enter. "Ah, good. Come in, close the door." You do as instructed, standing at attention. The captain regards you for a moment, his scarred face unreadable. "Relax," he says finally. "You're not in trouble. I wanted to talk to you about your role on this ship." "That's unexpected." "My role, sir? You've been with us for 6 months now. You've proven yourself capable, more than capable. I've been watching you, and I think you have potential for more responsibility." He leans back in his chair. "How would you feel about becoming a quartermaster?" You're stunned. The quartermaster is the second most important person on a pirate ship, responsible for discipline, distribution of plunder, and representing the crew's interests to the captain. It's a position of real authority. I'm honored, sir, but there are men who have been with you much longer. Davies Jacobson. Davies is too old and he knows it. Jacobson can't read or write, which makes keeping the books difficult. You can do both. You're smart, you work hard, and the crew respects you. That's what matters. I don't know what to say. Say yes or say no, but think about it first. Being quartermaster means making hard decisions. It means mediating disputes, doling out punishment when needed, and sometimes standing between the crew and me when we disagree. It's not an easy job. You consider it. More responsibility means more work, but it also means more influence, more authority, and a larger share of the plunder. It means being part of the ship's leadership, having a say in where you go and what you do. "I'll do it," you say. "Thank you, Captain." Merrick nods. "Good, we'll make it official when the crew gathers tonight. For now, keep doing what you're doing. And think about what supplies we'll need for the next voyage. I want a full inventory by the end of the week." You leave the cabin in a daze. Quartermaster, you, who 6 months ago was just a desperate soul looking for a berth, now the second in command. It's almost too much to process. Sarah is waiting on deck. One look at your face and she knows something's happened. "Well," she asks. "I'm the new quartermaster," you say, still not quite believing it. Her eyes widen, then she breaks into a huge smile. "That's wonderful." "Congratulations." She punches you in the shoulder, which is her way of showing affection. "We should celebrate. There's a tavern ashore called the Rusty Anchor. Best rum in Safe Haven. What do you say?" You're about to agree when you remember the work. The hull. "Can wait until tomorrow. You just got promoted. That deserves a drink." She's right. "And besides, you could use a break. You've been working since dawn, and your arms feel like they're about to fall off." "All right," you say. "Let me clean up first." An hour later, you're rowing toward shore with Sarah and a few other crew members. The settlement of Safe Haven is bigger than it looked from the ship. As you walk through the muddy streets, you pass all manner of people: pirates, smugglers, deserters, and others who live outside the law. There's a rough camaraderie here, a sense that everyone's in the same boat, so to speak. You see men from different crews drinking together, sharing stories and dice games. The Rusty Anchor is exactly what you'd expect from a pirate tavern. Dark, smoky, loud, and packed with rough-looking characters. You find a table in the corner and order a round of rum. The first sip burns going down, but the warmth that spreads through your chest is pleasant. To the new quartermaster, Sarah raises her cup and the others follow suit. You drink and the celebration begins. Stories are told, jokes are shared, and more rum is ordered. You learn things about your crewmates that you never knew. Davies, it turns out, was once a school teacher before he took to piracy. Jacobson has 7 children scattered across 3 different ports. Sarah won her first ship in a card game when she was 19. The hours pass in a blur of alcohol and laughter. You're vaguely aware that you should probably pace yourself, that you have work tomorrow, but the rum keeps flowing and the atmosphere is infectious. This is what life is like between voyages, moments of joy and camaraderie stolen from the harsh reality of your chosen profession. At some point, a fight breaks out near the bar. 2 men arguing over a card game, accusations of cheating, the usual. You watch as they throw a few punches, then are separated by their respective crews. No knives drawn, no one seriously hurt, just a minor scuffle. In Safe Haven, fights like this happen a dozen times a night. You know what I love about this place, Sarah says, her words slightly slurred. Nobody's pretending to be something they're not. On land in the cities, everyone's wearing a mask, being polite, following rules. Here, everyone's honest about who they are. We're thieves and killers and outlaws, and we don't apologize for it. You think about that. Is it better to be honest about being a bad person or to at least try to be good? You're not sure. The rum makes philosophy difficult. I should get back, you say eventually. Check on the ship. Sarah laughs. Always responsible. That's why Merrick made you quartermaster. But she doesn't argue. She gathers the others and you make your way back to the beach. The longboat ride back to the ship is quiet. The moon has risen, casting silver light across the water. You can see the asterisk serpents whisper at anchor, dark and silent. A single lantern burns at her stern, the watch light. Even here in Safe Harbor, someone is always on watch. You climb aboard and find Jacobson at the rail. Quiet night, you ask. Quiet enough. Heard about your promotion. Congratulations. Thanks. I'll try not to let you down. You won't, he says with certainty. You've got a good head on your shoulders. The crew knows it. You make your way to your hammock, but sleep doesn't come easily. Your mind is too active, thinking about your new responsibilities, about what tomorrow will bring. Being quartermaster means more than just a title. It means people will look to you for leadership, for decisions. It means you can't just follow orders anymore. Sometimes you'll have to give them. The next morning comes too soon, and with a pounding headache that reminds you why drinking that much rum was a bad idea. But you drag yourself out of your hammock and onto the deck, where work has already resumed. Thomas is up early, working on the sails. You join him, threading a needle with heavy twine to mend a tear in the canvas. I heard about your promotion, Thomas says shyly. That's really good. Thanks, Thomas. How are you settling in? He shrugs. It's hard sometimes. I miss my family, but everyone's been kind to me here. Kinder than I expected. You know what he means. Pirates have a fearsome reputation, and much of it is deserved, but within the crew there's often a surprising degree of care and loyalty. You look after your own because your own is all you have. The days begin to blend together. Each morning, you wake and work. You scrape the hull, mend the sails, splice rope, tar the deck. You take inventory of the supplies, noting what needs to be replaced or restocked. You mediate a dispute between two crew members over a dice game. You help Jack Hobson replace a section of rotted planking, cutting and fitting and nailing until your hands are raw. In the evenings, there's usually some shore leave. You visit the taverns, talk with pirates from other ships, hear news from around the Caribbean. There's word of a major Spanish convoy assembling in Havana. There's talk of a new governor in Jamaica who's particularly zealous about hanging pirates. There's a rumor that one of the pirate havens on the Bahamas has been raided by the Royal Navy. You file all this information away, knowing it might be useful later. As quartermaster, it's part of your job to stay informed, to help the captain plan the next voyage. One afternoon, you're ashore purchasing supplies when you see something that stops you in your tracks. A man being led through the street in chains. He's obviously a prisoner, and from the naval uniform he's wearing, stripped of insignia but still recognizable, he's been captured by pirates. Who is he? You ask the merchant you're dealing with. Lieutenant from one of the patrol ships. Got captured last week. They're holding him for ransom. You watch as the prisoner is led past. He looks young, maybe your age, and terrified. His eyes dart around, taking in the pirates and smugglers, the crude buildings, the general lawlessness. You wonder what he's thinking. Does he believe he'll be ransomed, or does he think he's going to die here? It's unsettling. That could be you if circumstances were different. If you'd made different choices, you might be the one in uniform, the one chasing pirates instead of being one. The line between you and him is thinner than you'd like to admit. Forget about him, the merchant says, noting your interest. Navy will pay up. They always do. Meanwhile, you need rope or not. You complete the transaction and head back to the ship, but the image of the prisoner stays with you. This is another aspect of pirate life they don't talk about much: the moral ambiguity. The knowledge that you're on the wrong side of the law, that if you're caught, you'll hang. Every prize you take, every ship you rob, you're creating victims. Some of them probably deserve it: cruel captains, exploitative merchants. But some of them are just people trying to make a living. You think about this as you work on the ship. Is what you're doing any different from what the navies and merchants do? They dress it up in fancy language, call it trade and law and order, but at the end of the day, they're taking from others too, just legally. Maybe Captain Merrick is right. Maybe there's no such thing as honest work, and you're all just fighting over scraps. Or maybe that's just what you tell yourself to sleep at night. The repairs continue. By the end of the first week, the hull is clean and patched, the rigging is sound, and the sails are mended. The ship looks better than she has in months. There's still work to do. The deck needs another coat of tar. Some of the cannon carriages need reinforcement. The galley stove needs repair. But the major jobs are done. Captain Merrick calls a meeting one evening. The entire crew gathers on deck as the sun sets, casting long shadows across the planking. The captain stands at the helm, surveying his men. "We've done good work," he begins. "The Serpent's Whisper is ready for sea again. But before we leave, we need to discuss our next move. I've heard reports of a Spanish convoy leaving Havana in 3 weeks. Rich cargo, silver from the mines, spices, silk. It'll be heavily guarded, but if we can take even one ship, we'll all be wealthy men." There's a murmur of excitement from the crew. This is what they live for: the big score, the prize that will set them up for life. But the captain continues, "It's risky, very risky. The Spanish don't take kindly to pirates, and if we're caught, we'll hang. I need to know the crew is with me on this, so we'll vote as is proper. All in favor of going after the convoy?" A forest of hands goes up. You raise yours as well. This is your life now, might as well embrace it. Opposed, 2 hands. Old Davies and one other sailor you don't know well. The captain nods, acknowledging their dissent without judgment. That's the pirate way: democracy in action, even among outlaws. The ayes have it. We sail in 1 week. Until then, enjoy your shore leave. And remember, loose lips sink ships. Not a word about our plans to anyone outside the crew. Understood? Aye, Captain. The meeting disperses. You find yourself standing at the rail again, looking out at the cove. 1 more week of rest, and then you're back out there. Back to the danger and the excitement and the moral compromises. Sarah joins you, having second thoughts. Always, you admit, but I'll go anyway. That's the spirit, she says with a laugh. Come on, let's get a drink. We've earned it. You spend the next few days preparing for the voyage. You create detailed lists of everything you'll need: food, water, ammunition, medical supplies. You check and recheck the inventory, making sure nothing is forgotten. You oversee the loading of the supplies, ensuring everything is properly stowed and secured. You also start learning the more administrative aspects of being quartermaster. Merrick teaches you how to keep the ship's log, how to calculate shares of plunder, how to maintain discipline without being tyrannical. It's more complex than you expected, requiring a delicate balance of firmness and fairness. One evening, you're called upon to settle a dispute. 2 crew members, both drunk, have gotten into an argument that has escalated to the point where they're ready to fight. As quartermaster, it's your job to resolve this before it gets out of hand. You listen to both sides. One claims the other cheated him in a card game. The other denies it, says his accuser is just a sore loser. Both are probably lying at least a little. You consider your options. Here's what we'll do, you say finally. You both lose. The money in dispute goes into the ship's fund, and you both pull extra watch duty for the next week. If I hear about this again, the punishment will be worse. Clear. They grumble but accept the judgment. Neither got what they wanted, which probably means it's a fair solution. As they leave, you feel the weight of your new position settling onto your shoulders. This is just the beginning. There will be harder decisions ahead. The final days in safe haven pass quickly. You make one last trip ashore to purchase a few personal items. A new knife to replace your old one, a book of poetry, some tobacco. The settlement feels different now that you know you're leaving. You look at it with fresh eyes, wondering when you'll be back, if you'll be back. The night before departure, the crew holds a celebration. It's tradition, one last night of revelry before heading back to sea. You drink and eat and tell stories, savoring these final hours of relative safety. Tomorrow, you'll be out there again, hunting the Spanish convoy, risking everything for a chance at fortune. As the party winds down, you find yourself on deck, alone with your thoughts. The stars are brilliant overhead, and the water of the cove laps gently at the hull. Everything is peaceful, everything is calm. It won't last, it never does. But for now, in this moment, you can enjoy it. You can stand here and breathe the salt air and feel the solid deck beneath your feet and know that tomorrow is another day. Another adventure, another roll of the dice. You think about how far you've come in 6 months, from a desperate nobody to quartermaster of a pirate ship. From someone running away from life to someone actively choosing this dangerous, exhilarating existence. You've changed. The sea has changed you. Whether that's good or bad, you still don't know. The moon rises higher, and eventually you head below to sleep. Tomorrow, the work begins again. Tomorrow, you weigh anchor and set sail back into the unknown. But tonight, while the crew sleeps and the ship rests at anchor in safe haven, you allow yourself a moment of peace. You are a pirate. This is your life between voyages, the repairs and the rest, the camaraderie and the conflict, the brief respite stolen from a life of danger. And in the morning, you'll do it all again. The sea is calling. She always is, and you'll answer. You always do. Story 3, The Last Harbor, a retired pirate's tale. The morning sun breaks through your window at the same time it always does, painting golden lines across the worn floorboards of your cottage. You wake slowly, without the jolt of alarm that once accompanied every dawn at sea. No bells, no shouting, no immediate danger requiring your attention. Just the soft sound of waves against the shore and the cry of gulls outside your window. You're 53 years old, and you've been living in this small coastal town for 7 years now. 7 years since you left the life. 7 years since you took your share of that last prize, bought this cottage on the edge of Portsmouth, and tried to become someone else. Someone respectable. Someone who doesn't wake up in cold sweats, dreaming of naval patrols and storms and the faces of people you've wronged. It doesn't always work. You rise from bed, your knees protesting as they always do these days. The dampness gets into your joints, legacy of too many years at sea, too many nights sleeping on wet decks or in hammocks that never quite dried out. You dress in simple clothes, linen shirt, wool trousers, nothing like the rough canvas and leather you once wore. The cutlass that used to hang at your hip now sits in a trunk at the foot of your bed, wrapped in oiled cloth. You haven't touched it in months. Downstairs, you light the fire and put the kettle on. Your cottage is small but comfortable. One room downstairs serving as kitchen and sitting area, one bedroom upstairs, and a small workshop attached to the side where you do your carpentry. That's what you tell people you are now. A carpenter, a craftsman, a man who makes furniture and repairs boats and minds his own business. Most of them believe it. Most of them have no idea that the quiet man who lives at the end of Shore Road used to be the quartermaster of the Asterisk Serpent's Whisper Asterisk, one of the most successful pirate ships in the Caribbean. That you've killed men. That you've taken prizes worth more than this entire town. That there's still a warrant for your arrest in 3 different ports, though they're looking for a younger man who went by a different name. You take your tea outside and sit on the small porch, watching the town wake up. Portsmouth is a fishing village, maybe 300 souls clustered around a natural harbor. Most of the men are fishermen. Some work the farms inland. There's a blacksmith, a general store, a tavern, and a small church. It's quiet, it's boring. It's exactly what you wanted when you came here. Or at least, it's what you thought you wanted. Your neighbor, Old William, waves as he walks past on his way to the docks. "Morning, John," he calls. John, that's what they know you as here. John Carpenter. Simple name, easy to remember, easy to forget. "Morning, William, good fishing today?" "Hope so, the wife wants cod for dinner." He laughs and continues on his way. You sip your tea and watch him go. William is a good man, honest. simple. He's lived his entire life in this town, married his childhood sweetheart, raised 3 children who are now raising children of their own. He's never been more than 30 miles from where he was born. He's never stolen anything in his life, never hurt anyone, never broken a law more serious than perhaps keeping a fish that was slightly under the legal size. Sometimes you envy him. Sometimes you despise him. Mostly you just feel confused about what you're supposed to feel. The morning passes in routine. You go to your workshop and continue work on a chair you're making for Mrs. Henderson, who runs the general store. It's simple work, measuring, cutting, sanding, fitting pieces together. Your hands, which once tied complex knots in ship's rigging and held a cutlass steady in a fight, now shape wood into domestic furniture. There's a meditative quality to it, you've found. When you're focused on the grain of the wood, on making sure the joints fit perfectly, you don't think about the past. Except when you do. A knot in the wood reminds you of rope. Rope reminds you of rigging. Rigging reminds you of the ship. And then you're back there in your mind, standing on the deck of the Asterisk Serpent's Whisper Asterisk, feeling her move beneath your feet, hearing Captain Merrick's voice, seeing Sarah's smile. The memories come unbidden, vivid, and painful. You shake your head and focus on the work. The past is dead. You're John Carpenter now. You make furniture. You live quietly. You hurt no one. Around noon, you walk to the general store to buy supplies. Mrs. Henderson greets you warmly. She's a widow, maybe 60, and she's taken a liking to you. Sometimes you suspect she's interested in more than friendship, but you've never encouraged it. You can't. What would you tell her about your past? How could you explain the man you used to be? The chair's coming along nicely, you tell her. Should be finished by the end of the week. Wonderful. You do such fine work, John. Much better than that charlatan Davies who used to do the carpentry around here. He charged twice as much, and the furniture would fall apart in a year. She leans in conspiratorially. I tell everyone they should come to you. You're an artist, truly. You thank her and pay for your purchases, bread, cheese, some salted pork. Simple food. Nothing like the feasts you used to have after a successful prize, when the galley would be stocked with delicacies stolen from merchant ships. Wine from France, spices from the East Indies, fine cuts of meat that you'd grill right on the deck while the crew celebrated. Stop it. Stop remembering. On your way home, you pass the tavern. It's called the Anchor, which you've always found grimly amusing. You don't go in often. Drinking was never your weakness, and besides, taverns make you uncomfortable now. Too many memories. But today something draws you inside. The place is nearly empty at this hour. Just the barkeep, Tom, and a couple of old-timers nursing ales in the corner. Tom nods to you as you enter. John, unusual to see you here. What can I get you? Just an ale. He pours it and you take a seat at the bar. The ale is weak compared to what you used to drink, but it's wet and cool, and that's enough. You're halfway through the mug when the door opens and a stranger walks in. You know he's a stranger immediately. In a town this small, you know everyone by sight if not by name. But more than that, there's something about him. The way he moves. The way his eyes scan the room, cataloging exits and potential threats. The way his hand rests naturally near his belt, where a weapon would hang. He's a sailor, maybe more than that. He orders rum and takes a seat 2 stools down from you. For a few minutes, neither of you speaks. Then he says, casual as anything, quiet town. It is. Good place to retire, I'd imagine, if a man wanted to leave his old life behind. Your blood runs cold. You don't look at him, don't give anything away. I suppose so. I knew a man once, the stranger continues. Good man, smart, served as quartermaster on a ship I crewed on long time ago. Ship called the Asterisk Serpent's Whisper. Maybe you've heard of her? You take a drink of your ale, keeping your hands steady. Can't say I have. No, funny, because you look an awful lot like him. Older, of course, but the same eyes, same scar on your left hand. He gestures to your hand, where an old scar runs from your thumb to your wrist. You got it during a boarding action 15 years ago when a merchant's sword caught you wrong. You set down your mug carefully. I think you've mistaken me for someone else. Maybe, he drinks his rum. But if I haven't, if you are who I think you are, then you should know something. The Whisper went down 3 years back. Storm off the Carolinas. Most of the crew died. Captain Merrick drowned. Sarah, too. The names hit you like physical blows. You keep your face neutral, but inside something breaks. Sarah, dead. You hadn't let yourself think about her in years, but now the memories flood back. Her laugh, her competence. The way she could splice rope faster than anyone. The night before you left, when you'd said goodbye and she'd told you she understood, even though her eyes said she didn't. I'm sorry to hear that, you manage. But like I said, I don't know these people. The stranger studies you for a long moment, then nods. My mistake then, sorry to bother you. He finishes his rum, drops some coins on the bar, and leaves. You sit there for a long time after he's gone, staring at your ale. Sarah, dead, Captain Merrick. Dead, the ship destroyed. It feels like the final severing of a cord you didn't even know was still attached. The life you left is truly gone now. There's no going back, even if you wanted to. Do you want to? You don't know. God help you, you don't know. You finish your ale and walk home. The rest of the day is a blur. You try to work but can't focus. The wood grain keeps reminding you of water, of waves, of the deck of a ship. You finally give up and sit on your porch, watching the sun set over the water. That night, the dreams are worse than usual. You're back on the Asterisk Serpent's Whisper asterisk, but everything's wrong. The ship is sinking, water pouring through holes in the hull. You're trying to save people, but they keep slipping away. Sarah is there, reaching for your hand, and you grab for her but can't hold on. She sinks beneath the waves, still looking at you, and you scream but no sound comes out. You wake gasping, sheets soaked with sweat. It's still dark outside. You won't sleep again tonight. The next few days are hard. You go through the motions, work on Mrs. Henderson's chair, repair a fishing boat for one of the local men, attend to your cottage. But your mind is elsewhere. You find yourself standing at the edge of the dock, looking out at the sea, wondering, what if you'd stayed? What if you'd been there when the storm hit? Would you have died with them, or could you have saved some of them? You'll never know. A week after the stranger's visit, you're working in your shop when you hear a commotion from the town center. Voices raised, some kind of argument. You consider ignoring it, not your business, not your problem, but something makes you walk over to see what's happening. There's a crowd gathered near the general store. In the center, you see a young man, maybe 20, holding a knife. He's threatening Mrs. Henderson, demanding money. The town has no real law enforcement, just a mayor who arbitrates disputes, and no one seems to know what to do. You should walk away. You should let someone else handle it. Getting involved means risk, means exposure, means potentially revealing skills that a simple carpenter shouldn't have. But Mrs. Henderson is terrified, and she's been kind to you, and that young man is pointing a knife at her, and suddenly you're moving before you've consciously decided to do so. You approach from the side, calm and quiet. The young man doesn't see you until you're within reach. Then you move, faster than you have in years. You grab his wrist, twist it in a way that makes the knife drop, and sweep his legs out from under him. In 3 seconds, he's on the ground and you're kneeling on his back, his arm twisted behind him in a lock that would take very little pressure to break. The crowd is silent, staring. "Someone get some rope," you say quietly. Your voice has changed. It's the voice you used to use on the ship, the quartermaster's voice, the one that expected immediate obedience. Someone brings rope. You tie the young man's hands with a bowline hitch, then a series of half hitches that he'll never work loose. Sailor's knots, pirate's knots. Only then do you look up and see the way people are watching you, not with gratitude, with wariness. With the dawning realization that quiet John Carpenter, the furniture maker, is something else entirely. Mayor Thompson steps forward. He's a stout man, balding, and he's looking at you with new eyes. "That was impressive, John. Where did you learn to do that? You could lie, you should lie, but you're suddenly tired of lying." "I was a sailor once," you say, "long time ago. Must have been some ship." "It was." They take the young man away. Mrs. Henderson thanks you profusely, clutching your hands. The crowd disperses, but you can feel the change. They're talking about you now, speculating. Quiet John Carpenter isn't so simple after all. That evening, Mayor Thompson comes to your cottage. You invite him in, offer him tea, and wait for whatever's coming. "The boy talked," Thompson says without preamble. "Said he came here from Bridgetown, heard this was a wealthy town, figured he could rob a few people and leave before anyone did anything about it. He was wrong." "Good. John, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." Thompson fixes you with a serious look. "What exactly were you before you came here? You could still lie, but you're tired of it, so tired." "I was a pirate," you say. "Quartermaster on a ship called the Asterisk Serpent's Whisperer Asterisk. I sailed for 15 years. Took prizes, fought the Spanish and the British, did things I'm not proud of. 7 years ago, I took my share of our last prize and left. I came here to start over, to be someone else." Thompson is quiet for a long time. "I could turn you in," he says finally. "There's probably a bounty. Probably. But I won't. You want to know why?" You wait. "Because in the 7 years you've been here, you've been a good neighbor. You've helped people. You've been honest in your dealings. Whatever you were then, you're a good man now. That should count for something. Thank you. But John, or whatever your real name is, people are going to ask questions now. They're going to wonder. You can't put the genie back in the bottle." "I know." After he leaves, you sit in the darkness of your cottage and think about what comes next. You could run. Pack your things tonight and disappear, start over somewhere else. It's what you would have done 7 years ago at the first sign of exposure. But you're tired of running. And maybe you think it's time to stop hiding from who you were. The next morning, you go to work as usual. People stare. Some avoid you. Others nod with a new respect. Mrs. Henderson is the same as always, kind and warm, though she does ask if the rumors are true. "Some of them," you admit. "I was a sailor. I did things I'm not proud of, but that was a long time ago. We've all done things we're not proud of," she says gently. "What matters is who we choose to be now." You wish you could believe that. Over the following weeks, something strange happens. Instead of driving you out, your revealed past seems to integrate you more deeply into the town. Young men start coming to you, asking about sailing, about navigation, about the world beyond Portsmouth. You tell them edited versions of your stories, leaving out the violence and theft, focusing on the adventure and wonder. William's grandson, a boy of 12 named Peter, becomes particularly attached to you. He comes by your workshop almost every day, pestering you with questions. What's it like to see a whale? Have you been to foreign lands? Did you ever fight in a battle? You answer carefully, trying to give him romance without glorifying the reality. Yes, you've seen whales, magnificent creatures that dwarf any ship. Yes, you've been to ports in the Caribbean, Africa, even once to the East Indies. And yes, you've fought, but you don't tell him how terrifying it is, how the smell of blood and gunpowder makes you sick, how the screaming haunts you years later. Why did you stop? Peter asks one day, if it was so exciting, why did you come here? You think about how to answer that. Because I got old, you say finally. And because I was tired, and because I lost too many people I cared about. He accepts this with the easy wisdom of children, then asks if you'll teach him to tie knots. You do. Bowline, clove hitch, sheet bend, all the knots you learned on the asterisk serpent's whisper. Your hands remember the movements even after all these years. Muscle memory from another life. One afternoon, you're working on a new project, a bookshelf for the church, when Mayor Thompson comes to your workshop with a proposition. John, we have a problem. There's been reports of pirates in the waters nearby. Not a full ship, just a small crew in a sloop, but they've been harassing fishing boats, stealing catches, threatening people. The fishermen are scared to go out. What do you want me to do about it? You know how they think, how they operate. Help us. Tell us how to protect ourselves. Maybe talk to them if it comes to that. Convince them to move on. You should say no. This is exactly the kind of thing you came here to avoid. But you think about William and the other fishermen, good men who just want to make an honest living. You think about Peter and the other children who depend on those fishing boats for food. All right, you hear yourself say. I'll help. The next few days, you work with the fishermen. You teach them how to watch for approaching vessels, how to recognize a pirate ship versus a merchant or patrol boat. You help them develop signals, ways to warn each other if danger approaches. You show them how to defend themselves if boarded. Not to fight, which would just get them killed, but how to make their boats less attractive targets. It feels strange, being on this side of it, being the one trying to prevent piracy rather than commit it. Then comes the day when the pirates actually show up. You're on the dock, helping William repair his boat when someone shouts a warning. There's a sloop entering the harbor, flying no colors, moving with the predatory grace you remember so well. The town panics. People start running for their homes. The fishermen grab weapons, harpoons, gutting knives, one old musket that probably hasn't been fired in 20 years. Wait, you say. Just wait. The sloop drops anchor. A longboat is lowered, and 4 men row toward the dock. They're young, all of them, and they have that swagger you remember. That combination of confidence and desperation that marks the pirate. They climb onto the dock, and their leader, a man maybe 30 with a scarred face and gold rings in his ears, looks around at the assembled townspeople and smiles. Good morning, he says. We're just here for provisions. Give us what we need and we'll be on our way. No one needs to get hurt. It's the same speech you've heard 100 times. The same speech you've given yourself back in the day. You step forward. This is a poor town, you say. Fishing village, they don't have much. The pirate captain looks at you, really looks, and you see the moment he recognizes something familiar. You're a sailor, he says. It's not a question. Was. What ship? You could lie, but you're so tired of lying. The serpents whisper asterisk. His eyes widen. The whisper? But she went down years ago. Most of the crew died. I wasn't there. I'd left before the storm. The other pirates are watching now, curious. Their captain studies you carefully. What was the quartermaster's name? This is it, the final admission. The last severing of John Carpenter from the man you used to be. You take a breath. That was me. I was the quartermaster. Silence. Then the pirate captain does something unexpected. He laughs. Well, I'll be damned. The quartermaster of the asterisk whisper asterisk, living in a fishing village. He shakes his head. I heard stories about you. They said you were fair but hard, that you kept the crew in line when even the captain couldn't, that you once took a Spanish galleon with just 30 men. The stories are exaggerated. Maybe, but you've got a reputation. He looks around at the town, at the frightened faces. These people know who you are, some of them. He nods slowly, thinking. Then he turns to his crew. We're leaving. What? One of them protests. But Captain, I said we're leaving. I'm not going to rob a town under the protection of the quartermaster of the asterisk serpents whisperer asterisk. That's a good way to make enemies, and we've got enough of those already. I'm not protecting anyone, you say. I'm retired. Maybe, but you're still here, still standing up for them. He extends his hand. It was an honor meeting you, quartermaster. You hesitate, then shake his hand. As he turns to go, you call out. The Spanish convoy runs up the coast every 3 months. They're due in about 2 weeks. Much better target than a fishing village. He grins. Thank you for the tip. You watch them row back to their sloop. Watch them raise anchor and sail out of the harbor. The town is silent, processing what just happened. Then William starts laughing. And suddenly everyone is laughing and cheering, and people are clapping you on the back, and Mrs. Henderson is hugging you, and you're surrounded by gratitude and relief. You saved us, Peter says, looking up at you with shining eyes. You're a hero, a hero. You who have stolen and killed and done terrible things. You want to tell him you're not a hero, that you just knew how to speak the language of pirates, that there's nothing heroic about your past. But maybe, just for today, you can let them believe it. That night, you sit on your porch and watch the stars. They're the same stars you used to navigate by, the same constellations you learned on the asterisk serpent's whisper. Polaris, still steady and true. Orion, still hunting across the sky. You think about the captain who came today. He's young, still full of the romance of piracy. Give him a few years, if he lives that long, and he'll learn what you learned. That it's not romantic. That it's brutal and dangerous and lonely. That every prize comes with a cost, and eventually the cost is too high to keep paying. Or maybe he won't learn that. Maybe he'll die young, killed in some fight or storm, and he'll never have to face the consequences of his choices. You survived. That's something. And you got out. That's something too. The next morning, Mayor Thompson comes by again. The town council met last night, he says. We want to make you our constable. Official position, small salary, but it would mean you'd be responsible for keeping the peace, dealing with any trouble that comes up. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Why not? You're clearly capable. And after yesterday, everyone trusts you. We need someone like you, John. Someone who knows the darker side of the world, someone who can protect us from it. You think about it, a constable, an official position, the ultimate irony, a pirate turned lawman. Captain Merrick would have laughed himself sick. But Captain Merrick is dead. Sarah is dead. The serpent's whisper is at the bottom of the ocean. That life is gone. This life is here. All right, you say, I'll do it. The seasons change. You settle into your new role. Most days are quiet, settling disputes, checking on the fishing boats, making sure travelers passing through don't cause trouble. It's not exciting, but it's honest work. Real work. Work that helps people instead of hurting them. Peter continues to visit, and you continue to teach him. Not just knots now, but carpentry, basic navigation, how to read the weather. He's a smart boy, curious and kind. Sometimes you see yourself in him, the boy you were before you became what you became. You find yourself hoping he'll make better choices than you did. One day, Mrs. Henderson invites you to dinner. It's not the first time, but something about this invitation feels different. More formal, more significant. You almost decline. But you don't. You accept. Her cottage is warm and welcoming, filled with the smell of cooking food. She's made a roast with vegetables from her garden, and there's fresh bread and butter and even a pie for dessert. It's more elaborate than necessary. This is wonderful, you say, and mean it. Over dinner, you talk. Really talk in a way you haven't talked to anyone in years. She tells you about her late husband, how he died 10 years ago from a fever, how she's been lonely ever since but didn't know how to reach out. You tell her about your life, the edited version, but more honest than you've been with anyone else in this town. Do you regret it? She asks. Your old life? You think about that. I regret the people I hurt. I regret the choices I made that led to those hurts. But I don't regret the experiences. They made me who I am. And who are you, John? It's the first time anyone has asked you that question straight out. Who are you? Not who were you, or who do you pretend to be, but who are you right now in this moment? I'm someone trying to be better than he was, you say finally. I don't know if I'm succeeding, but I'm trying. She reaches across the table and takes your hand. I think you're succeeding. That night, walking home under the stars, you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Hope. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, you can have a real life here. Not as John Carpenter, the fake identity you created, but as yourself. Past and present combined, acknowledged and accepted. The years pass. You continue as constable. You build a reputation not just as someone who keeps the peace, but as someone people can come to for advice, for help, for a sympathetic ear. You're respected now, genuinely respected, not feared or followed out of desperation, as you were on the asterisk serpent's whisper. Your relationship with Mrs. Henderson, Helen, as you now call her, deepens. It's slow and careful, two damaged people learning to trust again. Eventually, she moves into your cottage, or you move into hers, and suddenly you're living together, and it feels right in a way you never expected. Peter grows up. He decides to become a shipwright, building boats instead of sailing them. You're proud of him, glad he found a way to be close to the sea without the dangers that come with sailing it. One day, you're sitting on the dock with Helen, watching the sunset, when she asks, "Do you miss it? The sea, the adventure, all of it?" You consider the question honestly. Sometimes, you admit, I miss the freedom, the sense that anything was possible, but I don't miss the fear, the violence, the loneliness. What I have now is better. It's quieter, but it's better. No regrets, always regrets. But I'm learning to live with them. She leans her head on your shoulder, and you sit there as the sun sinks below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red and purple. The same sky you used to watch from the deck of the Asterisk Serpent's Whisperer Asterisk, but seen from a different angle now. From land instead of sea. From safety instead of danger. You're 58 years old. Your hair is gray, your body aches on cold mornings, and you'll probably never set foot on a ship again. You're no longer the fierce quartermaster who commanded respect through fear and competence. You're just an old man in a small town living a quiet life. And somehow, impossibly, you're happy. Not every day. Some days the dreams still come. Some days you see a sail on the horizon and your heart quickens before you remember you're not that person anymore. Some days you catch your reflection and barely recognize the man staring back at you. But most days are good. Most days you wake up next to Helen, work on whatever project needs doing, help whoever needs helping, and go to bed satisfied with how you spent your time. Most days the past stays where it belongs, in the past. One afternoon, 10 years after you became constable, a ship arrives in harbor. Not a pirate ship, just a merchant vessel stopping for repairs. Among the crew is an old man, probably 70, with a weathered face and hands missing several fingers. You recognize him immediately. Davies. Old Davies from the Serpent's Whisperer Asterisk. He recognizes you too. You see it in his eyes, the flash of recognition followed by calculation. Will you acknowledge each other? Pretend to be strangers? You make the decision in a heartbeat. You walk up to him and extend your hand. Davies. It's been a long time. He shakes your hand, grinning. Quartermaster, heard you were dead. Heard the same about you. You take him to the tavern, buy him a drink, and talk. He tells you about the storm that sank the Whisperer Asterisk, how he survived by clinging to wreckage for 2 days before being picked up by a passing merchant ship. He tells you about the crew members who made it, not many, and those who didn't. He confirms Sarah's death and Merrick's and so many others you knew. What happened to you? He asks. You just disappeared. I left, you say simply. Took my share and left, came here, started over. He looks around the tavern at the quiet town visible through the windows. This what you wanted. It's what I needed. He nods slowly. I get that. I'm done too, more or less. Just working merchant ships now, doing honest work. It's boring as hell, but it beats hanging. You laugh at that. It feels good to laugh with someone who knows the truth, who understands where you came from. Before he leaves, Davies says something that stays with you. You know what the difference is between us and them? He gestures at the townspeople going about their business. We know what we're capable of. We've been tested in ways they never will be. That's worth something. Even if we're trying to forget it, even if we're trying to be better, we know what we are when we're pushed to the edge. And that knowledge, that's both a curse and a gift. You think about that for a long time after he's gone. He's right. You do know what you're capable of. You've killed men when you had to. You've made hard decisions that cost people their lives. You've survived things that would have broken others. And now you use that knowledge, that hard-won wisdom, to help people. To protect this small town from the dangers you understand better than they ever could. To guide young men like Peter away from the mistakes you made. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's redemption, or as close as you'll get to it. The sun is setting as you walk home to Helen. The same sun that set over the Caribbean Sea, over pirate havens and battle sites and all the places your old life took you. But this sunset feels different. Warmer, more peaceful. You're a retired pirate living in a small coastal town. You're a constable, a carpenter, a husband in all but name. You're a man with a terrible past trying to build a decent present. And for tonight, for this moment, that's enough. Tomorrow will bring what it brings. More work, more challenges, maybe more ghosts from the past. But you'll face it the same way you've faced everything since you came to Portsmouth, with quiet determination and the hope that today you can be better than you were yesterday. The last light fades from the sky. You open the door to your cottage, where Helen is waiting with dinner. Inside is warmth and safety, and something like love. Outside is the sea, eternal and unchanging, calling to you the way it always has and always will. But tonight, you close the door on it and choose the warmth instead. And that choice, made freely and with full knowledge of what you're giving up, feels like the first truly honest thing you've done in your entire life. You are home. Finally, truly home. The sea can wait. Story 4, The Captive's Journey. The rope burns your wrists. You've been bound for 3 hours now, ever since the pirates boarded your father's merchant ship and took control. Your heart hasn't stopped racing since the moment you saw their black flag appear on the horizon, since you heard the first cannon shot across your bow, since your father ordered everyone to surrender rather than fight and die. You're 19 years old, the youngest son of a wealthy merchant, and until this morning you thought you understood how the world worked. Ships carried cargo. Trade made everyone prosperous. The law, distant but present, kept people safe. Pirates were stories, legends, cautionary tales told by old sailors in taverns. They weren't supposed to be real, but they are very real, and now you're their prisoner. You sit on the deck of your father's ship. No, not his ship anymore, their ship now, with your back against the mainmast. Around you, the pirates are efficiently looting everything of value. They work with practiced ease, calling out to each other, laughing occasionally. They're not monsters. That's what shocks you most. They look like ordinary sailors, though rougher, more weathered. Some are young, barely older than you. Others are grizzled veterans with scars and missing teeth. Your father is nearby, also bound. His face is pale but composed. He's trying to stay calm for your sake, but you can see the fear in his eyes. Your mother and sister weren't on this voyage, thank God. They're safe in Boston, unaware that anything has happened. The pirate captain approaches. He's maybe 40, with dark hair pulled back in a queue and a scar running down his left cheek. He's wearing a fine coat, probably stolen from some other merchant, and has 2 pistols thrust through his belt. He looks you over with appraising eyes. "This one," he says to one of his crew. "Bring him to the Whisperer Asterisk." "What about the father?" the crewman asks. "Leave him with his crew. They can sail back and tell everyone what happened here." The captain smiles coldly at your father. "Consider this a lesson in the cost of doing business in these waters." "Please," your father says, his composure finally cracking. "Take the cargo, take the ship if you must, but leave my son." "Can't do that. He's young and healthy. We can use him. Don't worry, merchant. If he's smart and does what he's told, he'll be fine. Might even thank us one day." The captain gestures, and rough hands grab your arms, hauling you to your feet. "Father!" You struggle, but it's useless. They're too strong. "William." Your father is fighting against his bonds now, desperate. "William, I'll pay. Name your price, whatever you want." The captain laughs. "I've already taken everything you have, merchant, including your son. The only thing I'm leaving you is your life. Consider yourself lucky." They drag you to the rail and force you into a longboat. You look back at your father, at the ship you've sailed on a dozen times, at everything familiar and safe, and then you're being rowed away. the distance grows. Your father's shouts become fainter. The world you knew becomes smaller and smaller until it's just a shape on the horizon. The pirate ship looms ahead. She's called the Asterisk Serpent's Whisperer Asterisk. You hear them say. She's bigger than your father's ship, better armed, and there's something predatory about her lines. This is a vessel built for one purpose, taking what belongs to others. They haul you aboard and cut the ropes binding your wrists. Blood rushes back into your hands, painful and tingling. A woman appears. You're shocked to see a woman aboard a pirate ship and looks you over critically. "Can you sail?" she asks. Yes, I've sailed since I was a boy." "Good. Can you tie knots, splice rope, climb rigging?" "Yes, ma'am." She almost smiles at the ma'am. "Don't call me ma'am. I'm Sarah. You'll work with me until you learn the ship. Do what you're told, work hard, and you'll be fine. Cross us, try to escape, or cause trouble, and you'll regret it. Understand?" You nod, not trusting your voice. "What's your name?" William Morrison." "Well, William Morrison, welcome to the Serpent's Whisper. Your old life is over. This is your life now." The first days are a nightmare. You're put to work immediately, scrubbing decks, hauling rope, mending sails. The work is backbreaking, and you're unused to the physical demands. Your hands, soft from a life of privilege, blister, and bleed. Your muscles scream with exhaustion. At night, you collapse into a hammock in the crew quarters, too tired even to properly grieve for your lost freedom. The crew watches you constantly. You can feel their eyes, judging, waiting to see if you'll break or adapt. Some are friendly in a rough way, showing you how to do things properly. Others are openly hostile, making comments about spoiled merchant sons and how you'll never make it as a real sailor. You're determined to prove them wrong. You don't know why exactly, pride, perhaps, or survival instinct, but you throw yourself into the work. When Sarah shows you how to splice rope, you practice until your fingers are raw. When they send you up the rigging, despite your terror of heights, you climb. When they give you the worst jobs, swabbing the bilge, cleaning the heads, you do them without complaint. Slowly, grudgingly, you earn a measure of respect. Sarah becomes something like a mentor. She's tough but fair, never asking you to do anything she wouldn't do herself. You learn that she's been sailing for 15 years, that she ran away from an arranged marriage when she was 17, that she's one of the most skilled sailors on the ship. The crew respects her, and the captain trusts her judgment. "Why do you do this?" you ask her one day while you're working together on repairing a sail. "Do what?" "This. Piracy. Surely there are other ways to make a living." She's quiet for a moment, her needle moving in and out of the canvas with practiced precision. "There are other ways for men, not so many for women. I could have married some merchant or farmer, spent my life bearing children and keeping house. Or I could have this: freedom, adventure, the chance to be my own person." She glances at you. "You think we're villains, maybe we are, but we're honest villains. We don't dress up our theft in legal contracts and call it business." You think about that. Your father is an honest merchant, you want to say. But you remember the stories you've overheard, the conversations about favorable deals and exploited workers, the casual way he discussed buying goods from plantations worked by slaves. Maybe the line between merchant and pirate isn't as clear as you thought. After 2 weeks, Captain Merrick summons you to his cabin. You enter nervously, unsure what to expect. The captain is studying charts, and he doesn't look up immediately. "Sarah tells me you're doing well," he says finally. Better than she expected. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. I haven't decided whether to keep you or ransom you back to your father yet. He looks up, his scarred face unreadable. What do you think I should do? The question catches you off guard. I don't know, sir. Your father is wealthy. He'd probably pay well for your return. On the other hand, you're learning fast, and we can always use capable hands. He leans back in his chair. Tell me, William, if I gave you the choice, ransom back to your old life or stay here as part of the crew, what would you choose? It's a trap. It has to be. But looking at the captain's face, you think he's genuinely curious. And more than that, you realize you don't know the answer. A month ago, you would have said ransom without hesitation. But now, I don't know, you admit. I miss my family. I miss my old life. But there's something about this. The sailing, the freedom, even the danger. I feel more alive than I ever did in Boston. Merrick nods slowly. That's the sea talking. She gets into your blood, and once she does, you're never quite comfortable on land again. He rolls up his charts. You're staying, at least for now, not as a prisoner, as crew. You'll get a share of any prizes we take, same as everyone else. But that means you're bound by the articles, same as everyone else. You break them, you face the consequences. Understood? Yes, sir. Good, dismissed. You leave the cabin in a daze. Crew, not prisoner, but crew. It should feel like a defeat, an acceptance of your captivity. But instead, it feels like something else. Like possibility. The weeks turn into months. You learn the rhythms of the ship, the personalities of the crew. There's Davies, the old sailor who knows every trick and can predict the weather by the color of the sky. There's Thomas, barely younger than you, who cries sometimes at night when he thinks no one can hear. There's Jacobson, missing 2 fingers and afraid of nothing. And there's the quartermaster, a man in his 30s who keeps order, settles disputes, and who you've learned to respect deeply. You participate in your first boarding action in your 3rd month. A merchant ship, smaller than the one your father owned, carrying sugar and rum from Jamaica. Your hands shake as you climb over the rail with the others, cutlass in hand. The merchant crew surrenders immediately, smart of them, and no blood is shed. You help secure the prisoners, transfer the cargo, and watch as they're set adrift in longboats with enough food and water to reach the nearest port. That night, you can't sleep. You've just robbed people. People like your father, people who were doing honest work, or at least work that seemed honest. You've become what you were raised to fear and despise. But you also can't deny the rush of it, the danger, the success, the way the crew clapped you on the back afterward, accepting you as one of them. Sarah finds you on deck, staring at the stars. First one's always hard, she says. Does it get easier? Yes and no. You stop shaking. You stop second-guessing every move. But if you're the kind of person who feels guilt, that never quite goes away. She's quiet for a moment. That's good, though. The pirates who feel nothing are the dangerous ones, the monsters. As long as you feel something, you're still human. What if I don't want to be this? You ask quietly. What if I want to go back? Can't go back, you know that. You've crossed the line. You're a pirate now, William. Even if you went home, you'd be marked, changed. You'd never fit in that world again. She's right, and you know it. You've been trying not to think about it, but the truth is undeniable. Even if you escaped, even if you made it home, you wouldn't be the same William who left. That boy is gone. In his place is someone harder, more capable, and deeply uncertain about what he believes. A year passes. Then 2, you grow taller, stronger. Your hands develop calluses, your skin darkens from the sun. You become a skilled sailor, able to read the wind and weather, to work the rigging even in storms, to handle a cutlass when needed. The crew stops thinking of you as the merchant's son and starts thinking of you as one of them. You participate in a dozen more raids. Some go smoothly, others don't. You see violence now, real violence. You see men die, both your crewmates and your victims. You learn the weight of a cutlass striking flesh, the sound of cannon fire, the smell of blood and gunpowder. You learn to live with fear, to function despite it. You also see the camaraderie, the strange honor that exists among pirates. When Davies is wounded in a fight, the crew nurses him back to health, using their shares to buy medicine at the next port. When Thomas is killed in a storm, they mourn him genuinely, holding a ceremony and drinking to his memory. When disputes arise, the quartermaster settles them fairly, according to the articles everyone agreed to. It's a hard life, but there's a fairness to it that you never saw in the merchant world. Here, everyone knows the risks. Everyone shares in the rewards. There are no owners sitting safely in mansions while workers risk their lives. You're all in this together. In your third year, you're put on watch duty one night. Standing alone at the bow, scanning the horizon, you have time to think about your journey. 3 years since you were captured. 3 years since you last saw your father, your mother, your sister. Do they think you're dead? Do they mourn you? Or do they know somehow that you're alive, that you've become the very thing they feared? You've written letters, though you've never sent them. What would you say? Dear Father, I'm alive and well, but I'm a pirate now. I rob ships like yours. I hope you understand. There are no words that could bridge that gap. The quartermaster joins you at the rail. Over the years, you've become something like friends, though friendship among pirates is a complicated thing. Thinking about home, he asks. How did you know? You get a certain look. We all do sometimes. He's quiet for a moment. I left my home too. Different circumstances, but the result is the same. Can't go back. Do you regret it? Every day and never. He smiles slightly. That's the curse of this life. You hate what you've become, but you can't imagine being anything else. I don't hate what I've become, you say, surprising yourself. I hate what it cost, but the person I am now, I think I like him better than the boy I was. That's dangerous thinking. Why? Because once you accept this, once you stop fighting it, you lose the part of yourself that might have saved you. He looks at you seriously. Hold on to that guilt, William. Hold on to the part that knows this is wrong. It's the only thing that will keep you human. A few months later, everything changes. You're pursuing a Spanish galleon, fat with treasure from the colonies. It should be an easy prize. The Spanish are slow and undermanned. But they're also desperate, and desperate men do foolish things. The battle is fierce. Cannon fire tears through the rigging. Men scream and fall. You're in the thick of it, fighting a Spanish sailor who's trying to kill you. Your training takes over parry, thrust, dodge. You don't think, just react. And then your blade finds flesh, slides between ribs, and the Spanish sailor's eyes go wide with shock and pain. He falls, and you stand there, cutlass dripping blood, realizing what you've just done. You've killed a man. Not shot him from a distance, not contributed to his death indirectly. You, personally, with your own hands, have ended a life. The battle continues around you, but you're frozen. The man at your feet is maybe 30, with a wedding ring on his finger. He's someone's husband, maybe someone's father, and now he's dead because of you. Sarah grabs your arm, shaking you. William, move, we need to secure the ship. You move mechanically, doing what needs to be done. The Spanish surrender. The treasure is secured, more wealth than you've ever seen, enough to make every crew member rich. There's celebration, drinking, sharing of the spoils. But that night, alone in your hammock, you can't stop seeing the Spanish sailor's face. The moment of shock, the light leaving his eyes. You've crossed a line you can never uncross. The next few weeks are dark. You go through the motions, working, eating, sleeping, but part of you is somewhere else. The quartermaster notices and pulls you aside. "First kill?" he asks. You nod. "It never leaves you. That's something you need to know. 20 years from now, you'll still see his face. That's the price we pay for this life. How do you live with it? Poorly, but you live." He's quiet for a moment. "You want my advice. Remember him. Don't let it become easy. The day killing becomes easy is the day you've lost yourself completely." Slowly, you come to terms with it. You don't forgive yourself, you're not sure you should, but you learn to carry it. The guilt becomes part of you, a weight you'll bear forever. In your 4th year, you're made a junior officer. More responsibility, larger shares of prizes, authority over other crew members. You've proven yourself capable and trustworthy. Captain Merrick relies on your judgment now, asking your opinion on tactics and targets. You've become what you never thought you would be, a successful pirate. One day, you're in a port town, one of the pirate havens where the law doesn't reach, and you see a ship flying your father's company flag. Your heart stops. It's not his ship, but it's one of his fleet. Which means there are people aboard who might know you, who might recognize you. You should avoid it. You should stay far away. But something draws you closer. You watch from a tavern as the crew comes ashore, and then you see him. Your older brother, Daniel, he's captaining one of your father's ships now, just as he always wanted. He looks older, more serious. There are lines around his eyes that weren't there 4 years ago. You wonder if your disappearance put those there, if your family has been grieving you all this time. You could approach him. You could let him know you're alive. But what would you say? How would you explain what you've become? You watch him go into a merchant's office, and then you turn and walk away. Some doors, once closed, can never be reopened. That night, you write another letter you'll never send. "Dear Daniel, I'm alive, I'm well. I'm sorry for what I've become and sorrier still that I can't return to you. Know that I think of you all, even though I can never see you again. Your brother, William." The 5th year brings changes. Captain Merrick is getting older, talking about retirement. Sarah has taken over more of the day-to-day operations. There's talk of what will happen when Merrick leaves, who will captain the ship, where they'll sail, whether to continue as pirates or try to obtain letters of marque and become privateers. You're part of these discussions now, your opinion valued. It's surreal. 5 years ago, you were a prisoner. Now you're helping decide the future of a pirate ship. Then comes the storm. You've weathered storms before, but nothing like this. The wind howls like a living thing. Waves taller than the ship crash over the deck. The rigging snaps, sails tear, and water pours through every gap. Everyone is working desperately just to keep the ship afloat. You're up in the rigging, trying to secure a torn sail when you see Thomas, no, a different Thomas, a new recruit, lose his grip. He falls, hits the deck hard. You don't think, just slide down the rigging and run to him. He's unconscious, bleeding from a head wound, and the next wave will wash him overboard. You grab him, drag him to the mainmast, tie him there with rope. Your fingers are numb from cold and fear, but you manage it. The wave hits and you both hold on. Somehow, you both survive. When the storm finally passes, when the sun breaks through the clouds and the sea calms, you're exhausted beyond measure. But you're alive, and the boy you saved is alive. Captain Merrick calls the crew together. "We lost good men today," he says, "but we survived because everyone did their duty. Some went beyond." He looks at you. William Morrison saved young Thomas at risk to his own life. That's the kind of courage that defines us. We're not just pirates, we're a crew, a family. Later, Sarah finds you. You've come a long way from the terrified merchant son we captured 5 years ago. Have I, or have I just learned to hide the fear better? Both, probably. She smiles. You know, you could leave if you wanted. You've earned enough to buy passage anywhere. Start over with a new name. Live honestly. Could I? After everything I've done, after everything I've become, I don't know, but the option exists. You think about that for days. Could you leave? Could you start over? You have money now, skills, experience. You could go somewhere far from here where no one knows your past. You could open a shop, Mary, have children. You could be William Morrison, the merchant, the carpenter, the sailor. Anything but William Morrison, the pirate. But would you still be you? The boy who was captured is dead. The pirate who replaced him is all that remains. And strange as it is, you've made peace with that person. You're not proud of everything you've done, but you're not ashamed of who you've become either. In the 6th year, Captain Merrick announces his retirement. The crew votes on a new captain, as is tradition. To your shock, you receive votes. Not enough to win, Sarah becomes captain, which is right and proper, but enough to show that the crew trusts you, respects you. Sarah asks you to be her quartermaster. The position the current quartermaster held, the position you've admired and learned from. It's an honor and a responsibility. You accept. Life continues. You take prizes, you avoid the Navy, you survive. You're 25 now, a veteran pirate, and sometimes you barely remember the boy you were. He seems like a character in a story, not your actual past. One day, you receive word that your father has died. A merchant passing through mentions it casually. Old Morrison, dead of a fever, his business divided among his children. Your brother Daniel inherited most of it. You excuse yourself and walk to the rail. Your father is dead. The man who raised you, who tried to save you, who probably died not knowing what happened to his youngest son. You feel grief, but it's distant, muted. You mourned your father years ago when you accepted you'd never see him again. This is just confirmation of what your heart already knew. That night, you finally send a letter. Not to your family, that would be cruel, opening old wounds, but to a lawyer in Boston with instructions to anonymously donate a sum of money to your mother. It's not much compared to what your father lost when his ship was taken, but it's something. A final gesture from a ghost. 7 years after your capture, the Serpents whisper asterisk anchors in a hidden cove for repairs. You stand on deck, looking at the ship that's been your home for longer now than your father's house ever was. You've crossed oceans on her. You've fought battles, weathered storms, laughed and grieved and lived. A new recruit approaches nervously, a boy maybe 18, captured from a merchant ship just like you were. "Sir, quartermaster, Sarah said you'd teach me the ropes." You look at him and see yourself 7 years ago. Scared, lost, uncertain, but also curious, adaptable, capable of becoming more than he knows. "What's your name?" you ask. "Peter, sir." "Well, Peter, let me tell you something. This life isn't what you expected. It's harder, more dangerous, and more morally complicated. but it's also more honest than anything you knew before. You'll make choices here that will change you forever. Some you'll regret, some you won't. The important thing is to remember who you are, even as you become someone new. He nods, not entirely understanding, but willing to try. You spend the afternoon teaching him knots, showing him the rigging, explaining how the ship works. As you work, you realize something. You're not the victim of your capture anymore. You haven't been for years. You're not the prisoner who became a pirate. You're just a pirate, full stop. This is your life, your choice, your identity. And somehow, impossibly, you're okay with that. That night, you write one final letter, not to your family, but to yourself. The boy you were 7 years ago. Dear William, I know you're scared. I know you think your life is over. But it's not. It's just beginning. You're going to see things you never imagined. You're going to do things you never thought yourself capable of, both terrible and wonderful. You're going to become someone you don't recognize, and then you're going to make peace with that person. It won't be easy. There will be nights you can't sleep, days you can't look at yourself in the mirror. You'll carry guilt and regret for the rest of your life. But you'll also know freedom and adventure and camaraderie deeper than anything you experienced in your old life. 7 years from now, you'll stand on the deck of a pirate ship as quartermaster, teaching a frightened boy the same lessons you learned. And you'll realize that the kidnapping that seemed like the end of your world was actually the beginning of your real life. I can't tell you if that's good or bad. I can only tell you it's true. You're going to be all right. Different, changed, marked forever, but all right. With understanding. Your future self. You fold the letter and throw it into the sea, watching it sink beneath the waves. The past is gone. The future is unknown. All you have is this moment, this ship, this life. You are William Morrison. You were captured by pirates 7 years ago. You became one of them. And somehow, against all odds and expectations, you found yourself in the process. The sea calls. She always does. And you answer because this is who you are now. A pirate. A quartermaster. A survivor. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.